Today's day in the life, we're covering the clinical specialist for the peripheral divisions. I'll talk about the pay, the companies, how to break in, what I like about this role. And right now I could tell you this is an amazing role. The field is growing fast. The companies are delivering really innovative products to physicians to help patients. And the field is growing really quick. You could be an entry-level rep coming in or someone that's been in the space for a while that's looking for a change of pace. This role is dynamic. It moves really fast. And it's going to give you a good experience across many different doctors. You're going to be working in the Cath Lab, outside facilities, sometimes the OR, IR rooms. So you're going to meet a lot of different type of physicians and have a lot of different contacts. So let's kick it off, a day in the life of a peripheral clinical specialist. First, let's talk about the disease state, right? It always starts with that and how this product benefits patients. So patients who have peripheral artery disease, basically any artery outside of the heart, typically the legs, could stenose or get blocked over time with calcium, and that could lead to symptoms. And those symptoms come from the blockages, right? Less blood is getting to the extremities. So patients could have swelling, cold legs, the potential need for amputation, and other disease issues, right? So this is a huge, serious disease that, swelling, pain, different things can occur. And if it's not addressed, it could lead to a major thing in amputation. So physicians in the peripheral artery space are able to do minimally invasive techniques to go to those arteries and deploy stents or balloons or atherectomy to remove the stenosis and restore flow in that artery to the appropriate parts of the body, right? There are other techniques vascular surgeons can do access, which is a more of an open surgery approach. So today we're specifically talking about the peripheral clinical specialist role, doing minimally invasive techniques to help restore these patients and reduce and relieve symptoms. Companies in this space, it's all the typical companies you're probably aware of. Boston Scientific, Medtronic, Abbott, Terumo, Bard. There's so many companies in the peripheral space because it's a very complex procedure with many different things needed to have a successful result. That includes, the catheters, which help you get to the target lesion or area that's stenosed, the wires needed for support, balloons, cutters or atherectomy devices, the stents to restore, so many different types of devices. And what's interesting in these roles is you have to become an expert in the peripheral space because you're going to be working alongside what you might say are competitive reps, but multiple reps who are offering for that case different items for the physician, be it the wire, the balloon, the stent, all working together to restore flow and help that patient. This field, the peripheral space is growing about 7.7%, which is pretty good. It's always good to be in a field that's growing, but realize what I talked about first, which was the clinical side, right? These are major symptoms that affect patients that left unresolved, untreated, could lead to major events. But it's also important to understand the space from a business perspective. So when something's growing at a pretty good clip of 7%, what that means is there's money going to R&D, there's going to be future promotion opportunities for someone looking to advance their career, because as the field and the company grows, it leads to more things, right? It's a very important field. Now, backgrounds that are breaking in, I have seen some entry-level roles move into associate. You need to be really clinical and learn quickly how to do well in those clinical specialist roles. And usually it's a team that has established reps or clinical specialists that can, hide someone new who's in training until they get up into speed, right? I have also seen people from the hospital or the Cath Lab specifically move into the peripheral roles because they know the procedure so well. A lot of times you see the techs supporting these procedures come over to the industry because they know the wires, the disease state, and how to get through these cases at a really high clip. What I like about this role is what I said earlier. I think entry level can get in. I think very experienced people to get in too. So keep that in mind. Now, let's talk a little bit about the day in the life. These roles are so dynamic and it's very relationship driven in this business. You're going to be working with many different physicians. I talked about cardiologists, interventional peripheral cardiologists, vascular IR to help these lesions. And each physician operates in a different setting, right? These physicians can operate in hospitals, outpatient labs, ASCs. So it's important to realize the dynamics there. And I won't go into too much detail, but it's basically outpatient clinics or hospitals that you'll be working in. And sometimes the outpatient clinics are owned by the physician, so they're very busy, very productive centers where you're seeing a lot and helping a lot of patients. The day in the life that after talking to a buddy, he came up with a really good example of what the day in the life could be, and let's go through it. And then I will also talk a little bit about just some hallmarks for people to do well in this role, right? So this day in the life, the clinical specialist knows that we're going to the hospital. We're going to the hospital for the morning case, and we have a block of time. We're going to be there from 7 to about 2. There's 5 cases on the schedule with a doctor, and we have been invited to the lab to help support those cases. And typically on Tuesdays we go to the specific hospital to support because our main peripheral doctor is there. We have 5 cases. We don't know what we're getting into, but we get to the hospital on time. We talk to the staff, the physician, to understand what the first patient. It's kind of a routine leg case that we're going to go in and open up one of the major arteries, and his plan is to wire. It's calcified, so they're going to have to take an arthrectomy device or something to chomp the calcium and help open it before deploying a stent. Complex case, but your physician's pretty good, so it's routine. So you're just making sure all the product is there in the hospital. You worked with this hospital. It's a very good hospital to you where you've been there for many years and have a strong reputation. So you make sure that whenever product is used, it's ordered, none of the products expired, all your accessory items are there. So when the case starts, the physician doesn't need that much guidance. You're just making sure the right devices are in the room. You looked at the pre-images and you kind of have an idea of the length of balloon and stent you will use for this patient's specific anatomy, right? Because you, me, we all have different size arteries, so we have to select the appropriate balloon. Case goes well, smooth. You have the product in hand and hand it to the appropriate staff when the physician is ready. And then you go on to the second case. This case is kind of the same thing, a leg. You're having difficulty crossing the lesion. What that means is you have a wire, a catheter, and you're trying to get across a really tight space. And for some reason, the wire is not passing. It's prolapsing. It keeps bending on itself and not getting across. And you need the wire to get across so that you could deliver your stent and different treatment devices, right? So watching the physician struggle, she decided to try a different wire, a little bit more supportive, a little bit more body is what they'll say, and that's still not crossing. So you think about a case you covered a couple weeks ago. You say, "Hey doc, I saw this doctor try this wire. It's called a XYZ. It's in my bag. You want to try it?" It's a little bit more hydrophilic, meaning it's slippery and maybe will pass the lesion while still providing kind of that support that the second wire has. Doctor's like, "All right, let's try it. Yeah, I've heard of it. I've used it before. Thanks." You open the wire. Tech gives it to the doc. Somehow, miraculously, it passes the lesion. Could be because of your advice or just random luck. I think a lot of times we make a suggestion and just trying something different after pausing is the reason. But the physician, she's excited that she got past the lesion because it was taking her 5-10 minutes and they couldn't pass. You just saved a lot of time, and you're going to make sure this patient is able to benefit from treatment, right? So wire goes across, then they bring the catheter, the treatment device, no arthrectomy. They just use a balloon to open up the lesion and then come on with a stent. And a stent is scaffolding, metal scaffolding with usually a drug on it so it doesn't re-stenose or collapse. Deliver the stent appropriate length, sizing. Visually, you can see the fluoro. You recommend a fluoro 4mm stent length, let's say 20 millimeters. They drop it in, case is done. They shoot a little bit of contrast to see flow. Before with the blood, you couldn't see it because it's not on fluoroscopy, but when you shoot contrast, you can see now in the blood that was stenosed and not really passing. Upon release of the stent, they shoot what we call an angio. You see that lesion is opened and that there's proper flow. What you're also looking for is to make sure there's no adverse events because you're doing a minimally invasive technique and manipulating wires and catheters in the artery, which is a high pressure blood system. There's a chance because you're dealing with calcium or kind of ragged edges that you do a small dissection in the artery, and that's a slight tear, or something worse would be a perforation where you poke through the artery and then blood is leaving the system and going into the body, right? So that needs to be addressed immediately because it's a high pressure blood system. Blood is oozing out, and that's going to be a major event. So if that is identified, the physician and you could discuss how to quickly address that. And usually if it's a dissection, you can throw another stent to close the flap. If it's a perforation, you need to figure out how to stop blood, maybe by applying pressure and getting the vascular team in there to address that, usually through an open technique. Third, fourth case, you're still there, similar, nothing too complex. Other reps are in the room. You cross paths with, company A I mentioned, let's say, Medtronic. The Shockwave is there. That's a new device, peripheral, that goes in and uses lithotripsy to open up the calcium, kind of a risk assessment tool, right? You go in there with that to reduce the risk of perforation, which I talked about. Then you drop the stent in, and that's going to help the stent expand fully, right? You can imagine if you have calcium right here and you open your stent, it might be a little, is that visualization good? It might be a little not fully expanded. So with Shockwave, you reduce the calcium burden, balloon it, and you get a full expansion, right? So what's nice is you're in the room, and as a clinical specialist, you're collaborating with the physician, providing guidance. A lot of times they're good, so you're just making sure the product's ready. And you're also working with other companies, right? You know that the other companies might have a wire that the physician prefers, or a balloon that's able to deliver, meaning through tighter passages or tortuous anatomies. A specific competitor's balloon is really good for being delivered. So what's interesting about this clinical specialist role is that, you're representing your product, but more so you're an expert in the peripheral space, and you know when to recommend competitor products, and you know the compatibilities, right? So for example, if you're using competitive catheter with your products and they want to upsize to a different balloon or stent, you know that your product can go through that, right? That's really important, because in the middle of the case, you don't want to delay and say, I don't know. A little tip is the boxes have all the information. It's in French diameters, but really good peripheral clinical specialists know how to support the cases and get the physician to the result that they want. And it's just being a trusted advisor with a lot of product knowledge. These doctors are really, really good. So procedural wise, you're just watching and nudging when needed, but it's more so just being able to answer questions about all the products and also driving relationships. I didn't go too much into kind of the office-based labs where physicians are operating, or the ASCs. And what that is outside of the hospital, outpatients who are lower risk and can go to these centers. And what's nice is physicians can stack a lot of patients. It's their own facility. There's encouragement to move patients in, deliver a great result, get them out. So I'm not going to go into that. This is all just hospital-based. And we talked about today was a lab day with one of your main doctors, and we were supporting the cases morning to about mid-afternoon. And then how else do you go about your day, right? We talked about the procedural support, the real-time guidance. I talked about how you're an expert with all the competitive devices, but also intraoperatively what you're offering. You know how to look at fluoroscopic images. Perhaps they're using imaging modalities like IVUS, which is imaging the inside of the artery. And you're collaborating with the physician, the other competitive, med device companies there, and you don't view them as competitors. You're all there to support the patient and work together. And the last two big components of a clinical specialist would be kind of the education and training to staff, and then the administrative tasks. So we'll talk about education. After you're done, you decide to bring lunch into the staff because it was a long day. You did 5 cases. Talked a little bit about what you were doing in each case. And you wanted to educate on a new catheter that your company is delivering in a few months, and that this hospital is going to be part of a limited market release before full commercialization. What was special about this catheter is that it's a very small profile, which is really exciting because it's kind of the first on the market of that size. And you wanted to talk to the techs about when this device comes, how they need to prep it and approach this device so the doctor has success. And then you also wanted to spend time educating the nurses and other team members about why this device is exciting. You're conveying excitement that this hospital is first in this really exciting launch, and you're kind of seeding the work with the territory manager to make sure that when this product does launch, everyone has a really successful time with it, right? And the second thing, for education that we didn't do today, but you could work with physicians to educate on different disease states that maybe your product you think is superior in, or products that you could benefit. Today we just educated on a new product that's coming, but therapy awareness to referring physicians to your main implanters is important, and also talking about different applications that are on label with your devices so that you can have increased utilization and help more patients is super important. We're going to end our day with the administrative task, which is not that fun. So we completed our day. Our education is about 4 o'clock. We want to get home before traffic, so we drive. these peripheral roles, you're driving all over. Your territory might be, let's say San Diego or Los Angeles. You get stuck in traffic. It takes about 45 minutes to get home, and you want to wrap up your day. And there was a couple administrative tasks. You're like, you know what, I don't want to do it tomorrow. It's a little bit lighter load. I just want to get it done today. You shoot a text to your rep letting him or her know the cases went really well. Unfortunately, today they weren't able to get there, but they trusted you. They were focused on a different hospital, a couple other cases, and a competitive doctor that they were trying to grow their business. So they trusted you fully at this main account. You let them know cases went well. Doctor was, super pleased. He mentioned this, just to keep the rep in the loop. I think it's always important. They're one of your main customers. And then administrative tasks is you just want to close your expenses, which is a total joke in med device because everyone has to do it. And if you're taking an administrative day, it probably means you're doing your expenses or just going to the gym. But over time, you might have had coffee with a physician to educate about that product, and that expense will be reimbursed by the company. But you need to provide a receipt. Busy clinical specialists lose the receipt, so it's always good to find a really good way to stay organized. So going through your expense report so that you get reimbursed for your expenses, you have to fill out documentation. All this is scrutinized by the company because there's several governing bodies that track the expenses towards hospital and physicians, so there's no, quid pro quo. So it's important to get that done. And then also you had a assigned training, one for that new product that's coming that I mentioned that you were talking to the lab about. So just a kind of product refresher, which you complete, took about 15 minutes. It's just modules talking about the design of the catheter and intended use. And then lastly, you also had an HR assessment. Every year you have to do this. It was about radiation and being in the lab. It's a quick refresher about radiation safety. So when you are in the lab, how to reduce your exposure to radiation, which is truly just, reduce your time by the fluoroscopic machine, your distance, and also wearing proper PPE or protective gear that your company will provide you. And that's the lead that you wear. A lot of times if you go to the dentist and you do an x-ray, they put lead on you. So in the Cath Lab, you're wearing that actual lead and complete that. So you're done for the day. You feel really good, right? Because you help patients in the lab, had a really good time with your main doctor. After you were able to spend time with the staff, you provided some education, which they appreciate and they're excited. You also got them food, and you also just had fun, right? Develop your relationships with them. So in the future, if you ever had an ask of them, they're going to be more willing, right? Perhaps you need them to grab a different item or something, and they do that because they know you're what we call a homie of the lab. And then we ended the day with kind of the administrative task. What is important to note is every day is going to be different, right? For example, you thought you were going to wake up and go to this hospital, but maybe your territory manager calls you and says, hey, there's an add-on. I need you to get over across town to here. Cases in 30 minutes. And then you got to just race. You throw your scrubs on. They're wrinkly because you were late. You get over there and support a great case. And then you take the day hour by hour. Maybe you go back to the main hospital to support there. Perhaps there's another add-on, right? So the biggest thing with med devices for this role specifically, it's usually 7 to 6. Every day is a little bit different. You might not be in the hospital all day. You have to be adaptable, which is really important, and be okay in different scenarios. So today's day in the life, Peripheral Clinical Specialist. Appreciate you watching. This is Medical Device Matt. Stay tuned for more.